Hi. Um, I have a perler bead ua ua no mi. It's so cute. I actually really like the design of this devil fruit. I think Oda did a very good job with the design of this because of course it's looks like Kaido's scales and they're blue and everything and that affects the way that he looks as a dragon and I just find that so cool and I really just like the design that they did for it. So yeah. Um So this is going to be a discussion video kind of about just a theory I had. I've been doing a lot of celestial dragon tie-in videos a lot lately. I did kind of a Vivi one, I did a homing one, I did a Luffy's, Royal Monkey Family one, and I just kind of was like, well, you know, we don't really know that a lot about the history of the Ua Ua no Mi, and I just kind of thought, well, maybe that's something I can do a video on. And then I was like, well, we know basically the gist of what we know about the history of the Ua Ua no Mi is that 38 years ago from the present storyline, when the Rocks Pirates had this big fight on God Valley against the Roger Pirates and the Marines, specifically Monkey D. Garp and Gold D. Roger fighting against them with their captain and everything. We know that there was somehow on this island there was the Ua Ua no Mi. And my main point of this video is trying to figure out where that fruit came from, how was that fruit on the island. We know basically the gist is that some point during the battle Rocks died and the island was going to fall into the sea and vanish forever because it was just destroyed from everything that was going on, and it was just going to bing, vanish off the map. And the thought that I had was, well, we know that at some point near the end of that battle, Big Mom took the devil fruit, took the Ua Ua no Mi, and gave it to Kaido. And Kaido then ate the devil fruit, and then that allowed him to then turn into, we don't know if it was necessarily he could turn directly into the dragon, or if he had to do the whole thing of he got turned into a fish first, and then he had to learn how to control his power and then he turned into a dragon, or if he just turned into a dragon to begin with. Don't know. I'm going with more that he just turned into a dragon to begin with and then flew off. Maybe he saved Big Mom too, but I doubt it. But basically that's what we get. That's the gist of what the explanation is. First we get the explanation of kind of who the Rocks Pirates were, and of course the basic gist of who they are sometime a little over 38 years ago, sometime between the time when Lin Lin became a pirate and then 38 years ago she joined the crew of Rocks D. Zebek. And, the other members of the crew were, Whitebeard and a much younger Kaido, who was kind of an apprentice pirate at the time, yet still extremely buff. We had Shiki, we had, Silver Axe, we had Captain John, or who would become Captain John, we had Wang Xi, we had all of these other characters, possibly, Shaki as in Rayleigh's wife, we don't know, possibly, several other characters that could have been on the crew, we don't exactly know, but those ones were at least the main ones that we know about that were on the crew. And basically what we understand is they were all these big strong pirates that were on this crew. And, from there, they kind of terrorized the New World, probably other parts of the world too. And, they were considered this huge threat by the world government. And from there, it was basically they attacked God Valley. And part of this video is going to be explaining possibly why they were attacking God Valley, or one of the reasons why, or one of the theories for why I think they were attacking God Valley. And what we see is, of course, the Marines then have to ask, Gold D. Roger for help, which is just for them, granted, just bite your lip and get through this. Okay, Roger, here's the thing. I know we don't like each other. I know you don't like the world government, but here's the thing. Neither of us like Rocks. He's a threat to both of us, to the world government, to the Marines, to your crew. And, if you help us take him down, it will never be mentioned in the papers. Nobody outside of this room will know that you helped us. It'll be a coincidence that you were there. And we will allow you and your crew to leave the island unimpeded after we've defeated rocks. And that's probably basically what happened. It was like Garp was probably there, Sengoku, Suru probably a couple of other ones, whoever the admiral, the other admirals were at the time or whatever. They were like there, and they were probably like, okay, so here's what's gonna happen. You do this, we guarantee that you and your crew will have safe passage to leave the island and get to safety. Type of thing. And of course, Roger was just also the type of personality where he's just like, oh, I get to go be part of a fight? Awesome! That's basically probably also what happened, if we're being honest. Roger's like, I get to go fight someone? Yes. Really? Maybe we should think about this, Captain. Actually, no, who am I kidding? I just want to go fight someone too. Okay, here we go. They go off and they fight. But, that's basically the gist of what we get from what Sengoku tells us during one of the interlude chapters during Wano. Is like we get that explanation there, and like a brief explanation of like who was on the crew. And, we then find out that they, 38 years ago, they attacked God Valley. And then at some point, that's when Lin gave Kaido the devil fruit. So basically, the theories that I was going with was like, how did Lin have this devil fruit to begin with? So basically just going to go through the theories that I had. So option number one that I kind of thought of was that Rocks had this devil fruit to begin with. Like, he just had this devil fruit on their ship. And, like, part of this is, like, we know that Lin already had her devil fruit by that point in time. We don't know who else on the crew already had a devil fruit. Kaido did not have a devil fruit yet. We don't know if Shiki had his devil fruit yet. We don't know if Whitebeard had his devil fruit yet. But I wouldn't be surprised if, like, Whitebeard already had his, and, like, Shiki may have already had his, because they were already, like, a bit older than Kaido at this point in time. And I wouldn't be surprised, we don't know if, like, John or Silver Axe or Wangji, we don't know if they had devil fruits or not. And even if they did, we have no idea like what they were or anything like that. So there's like this possibility that like maybe on like a previous, raid, they got their hands on this devil fruit and then like they figured out what it was somehow. Like maybe they had like one of the devil fruit encyclopedia books and like they looked it up and they was like, oh, this is the Ua Ua no Mi model, Seiryu dragon, model Seiryu, it's a mythical zone. It'll, turn you into a giant blue dragon if you eat it. It'll give you that power. And maybe what had happened was, it's basically like, oh, Rocks had this devil fruit. Maybe Rocks already had a devil fruit at the time. We don't know. We have no idea if Rocks ever had a devil fruit or if he was just like extremely strong with it. Like Roger was extremely strong even without a devil fruit. Same thing with Rayleigh. Same thing with, Garp. They were all extremely strong even without devil fruits. So, Shanks is also a very good example of that, of being an extremely strong individual that does not have a devil fruit and is like, a Yonko or a Yonko level type character. Well, I was going to say Mihawk too, but well, we know that Mihawk and Shanks have fought, but they haven't fought for a long time after Shanks lost his arm because Mihawk, considers that to be like a dishonorable fight or whatever. And so basically it's like somehow Rocks had this devil fruit to begin with, like before they got to God Valley, and maybe his answer was, okay, to the rest of the crew that do not have devil fruit powers already, whichever one of you, kills the most Marines, kills the most, celestial dragons, slaves, blah, 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 whichever one of you, like, kills the most or causes the most damage or whatever, then you can have this devil fruit. And, that's just kind of my first thought, is like, he had this devil fruit, he was going to give it to whoever, like, performed the best out of everyone during this big raid. And via what had ended up happening was, during the raid, he battles against, battles against Roger and Garp, and he ends up getting defeated, supposedly is dead, although Sengoku has confirmed that he's dead, but it's One Piece, unless we see a body. Dead isn't a relative term. It's kind of an irrelevant term. But it's like an entire island vanished, so I'm kind of leaning toward Rocks is probably dead. But what we also, the kind of thought that I had after that was, okay, then somehow Lin then got her hand on the devil fruit, got her hands on the Ua Ua no Mi, and was like, okay, well, like it may have been like a split second decision that like she had her hands on the devil fruit, like she grabbed like the chest that had it in it, like maybe Rox had it on him, or it was like somewhere locked up in their ship and she like grabbed it and she was like, this kind of goes into like option number 2, but I'm going to finish up this one first. It was like maybe she had it and then like she saw that Kaido was in trouble and she like, maybe she was like, it kind of goes into the whole fact of like she saw Kaido as a little brother, because like she stated this when her and Kaido were like on top of Onigashima. She's like, oh, mama, Kaido, you were like little brother to me, blah 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 blah, how could I let you die, type of thing. And she like gave him the devil fruit. That kind of ties into theory number 2 as well, but basically we'll finish up this one first, as I said. And she like gave him the devil fruit, and then he like ate it, and then he could like turn into a dragon, and then he like flew off. Maybe he like saved her too or something, I don't know. But like we know that the rest of the Rocks pirates, Whitebeard and Big Mom and Kaido and Shiki and Silver Axe and Captain John and Wang Ji, like they all escaped the island. They all survived. Garp and the Marines and Dragon, or not Dragon, but Garp and the Marines, and Roger, like they all able to escape the island, and like whatever other celestial dragons were on the island as well, and like they escaped. But God Valley was just like, bye bye, no more God Valley. Might be a good thing, might be a bad thing, don't know. And what we see from that's basically like end of theory 1 is like results in Kaido getting devil fruit, and then he flies off or whatever. Eventually like trains with his power, then eventually is like captured by the Marines and like experimented on, and then finds King, and then he goes off and blah 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 blah. So we see that's kind of like option 1 that I had. Option 2 is that Lin had the devil fruit to begin with, that she just had the devil fruit with her. May have been a similar thing that like maybe she was the one that found it, and maybe Rox had the rule on his crew that it's like, oh, if you find a devil fruit, then you're the one that gets to decide what to have, what happens with it. And it may have been like Lin had the devil fruit, and she may have been like, oh well, like they knew what it was, or like maybe they didn't quite know that it was that devil fruit, but they knew that it was like a Zoan type devil fruit or something like that. And like she's like, well, I can save this and I can give this to one of my children. Now, the initial thought obviously would be like, oh, she can give it to Katakuri. But, okay, so I had to double check timeline stuff on this. So, by the time that the Rocks pirates disband, when they're, destroyed and like scattered and everything after what happens on God Valley, Lin has had 30 children up to this point in time. So it's like all the way from Perospero all the way down to Montthor. And Montthor was the youngest at the time. He's 38 years old. Now, we do not know if that means that he was born before or after what happened on God Valley. We do not know. It may have been that like maybe Lin was pregnant at the time with him when they were on God Valley, and he just ended up, was like born sometime after that, or maybe he was born like shortly before that. And then, she then got pregnant again some other point in time. I'm not going to touch on the fact that some of the other crew members might have been like fathers of the children. We have no idea. I'm not going to go with that at all. That's not what this theory is about. But what we also see is, and, as I said, the initial thought would be like, oh, she can give it to Katakuri. But the thing is that Katakuri already had a devil fruit at this point in time. Because it is stated that when Katakuri was 5 years old, 43 years ago, because he's 48 years old, he already had the power of the Mochi Mochi no Mi. He had already eaten that when he was, 5 years old. And this is already after he had like the rips in his cheeks and everything. And so he already has his devil fruit. So there's no point in giving him another devil fruit. And, a lot of her other children have devil fruits, obviously. Perospero has the candy, the lick no Mi, and, Daifuku and Oven both have, devil fruits along with, Smoothie, I believe, would have been born at this point in time, I think, as well. And, like, she is a devil fruit. And, several of her other older children all have, like, devil fruits to some degree. A lot of her children have devil fruits, if we're being honest here. But, like, they have the devil fruits already. Or by the time Totland takes place, they have the devil fruits. The only one that we know, I believe, exactly when he got the devil fruit was Katakuri. Because I don't think we ever find out when, like, Perospero got his devil fruit. It may have been he already had it. It may have been that, like, he just, had it at some other point in time, and he's just, had it for a long time. But we don't know exactly how long that's been. And the kind of the thought that I had was that, like, okay, so I don't, as not necessarily good of a mother as like Lin Lin strikes me, I don't necessarily think that she kept all of her children on the ship with her. That probably what had ended up happening was Lin Lin, like as she would have her children, because Perospero and Compote would have been the two born before she joined the Rocks Pirates, and then from like Katakuri, Daifuku would have been on down to Montdor would have all been born during the time frame that she was on the Rocks crew. Because she had like several multiple births during that time frame. And what my kind of thought was that maybe they kind of used like Totland a little bit like a kind of like a rest area that like, okay, so Linland's, having another child, blah, 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 blah. We'll sail to Totland, whatever. We can stay there for a little while. She can drop her kid off, or she can have her kid and drop it off there with, Streusen. My thought would be like, as long as she can continue to fight while she is pregnant, I don't think that, Rox would necessarily have a problem with her having so many children, particularly if, like, by some chance one of them may have been his, but I don't know. We don't know. We don't know how old Rox was when he died. We don't even know 100% what he looks like, except that he looks kind of crazy and has, like, dreadlocks. But one of the, so it's like maybe like they went back to like what would be considered Totland eventually, like that island, and like Lin Lin has her children there. Because like when we get the flashbacks during the time frame when Lin Lin would have been on the Rocks Pirates, when we see Katakuri and Perospero and Daifuku and Oven and Brule when they are younger, we see them like in like this town type area, and like there's other children around, like they're the ones that hurt Brule. So they may have like left, she may have like left her children there with like Streusen, and maybe they had already started to build up kind of a town area there. And maybe just like whenever Lin Lin wasn't around, that's when her children got picked on a lot more. And then eventually, of course, Katakuri, adopted the stance of being the perfect older brother to protect his siblings and blah, 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 blah. So there's that whole concept there that like she had this devil fruit from some other, she was going to save it and give it to one of her children. Probably not Katakuri, but like maybe one of the other children. Maybe she was going to give it to, I don't know, maybe she was going to give it to Smoothie. That would have been funny. Smoothie can now turn into a giant blue dragon. Actually, I think a lot of people would find that hot, particularly in a hybrid form. Why do I think I'm one of them? Oh, well. But, so there's like that concept of like, oh, she may have just like had, the devil fruit to begin with, and she was maybe willing to save it and then like give it to one of her children the next time they were in Totland. Some form of that. Like she got it off of rocks at some point, or she was the one that found it. We don't know. That was option number one, or option number two was that one. And then, it still results in the same thing of like when God Valley is like crumbling around them, she like gives it to Kaido and he eats it, and that like, results in him having his ability to shapeshift into a giant dragon. And then he eventually like learns how to control the power a lot more. Pretty well, in all honesty. He makes the, he's got the Boro breath, he's got like the wind scythe blade breath, he's got, he's got the hybrid form, which is kind of cool looking, he's got, the full-on dragon form, he's got, the whole thing where he's just like, I'm just going to lift this island with clouds. Okay. It's just like Kaido becomes very, very proficient with his devil fruit. No one's denying that. He's got a really good control over his devil fruit. That is very true. But what we also kind of see is, at some point that's how he got that. One point that's one of the options that like she gave him the devil fruit. The last option that I had, which is I guess is kind of more of a darker option, is that the devil fruit itself, like the Ua no Mi itself, was already somehow on God Valley. And that it was, we know that God Valley was like the celestial dragons and their slaves would go there because that's one of the reasons why they wanted, Roger to help come and like protect it. The kind of the thought is that like, oh, because Rox wanted to become like the king of the world, he wanted to go and like go to God Valley and maybe like kill, a ton of the celestial dragons, and then, then I guess, I don't know, go and, climb the red line and go to Marijuana and then kill the rest of them. Part of that I'm okay with, part of that I'm not okay with. It can be left up for debate. But it's the concept of like they went to the island and they eventually, fought against all this, they fought against the Marines and everything. And the precipice of that one is, why were they on the island to begin with? Rox obviously wanted to attack there to probably attack a bunch of the celestial dragons, kill them, kill their slaves, blah, 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 blah. I mean, we don't know that much else about the man's motivation or mental status at the time. So, it's kind of left up for debate there. But my part of the thought is that, like, the dragon, the devil fruit was already on the island. Now, there's the whole theory that, like, the celestial dragons, the reason that their symbol is, like, the hoof of the dragon was because, they had once had dragons that they would ride around on, and then eventually they all died out. And, that's why, like, Vegapunk made, like, the green dragon and the red dragon that were on, Punk Hazard, and why he was trying to make, like, the fake version of, like, the Ua Ua no Mi. And I can tie that in with the Momo theory in a little bit. But what we see, or kind of the gist of what we get, is that, like, Rox attacked the island. Maybe he told them he was going to attack the island, like sent like a warning letter ahead of time, like, have your strongest fighters. We're going to be attacking God Valley soon, type of a thing. Save the date, type of a postcard, type of a thing. Like for a wedding, save the date. We're going to attack. Have your strongest fighters there, type of a thing. And maybe what it was I kind of had like 2 or 3 different options here. One of them is that the devil fruit was on the island. And, like, maybe it was, like, this symbol that, like, they were waiting until, like, the celestial dragons had, like, a really, really strong slave that they wanted to give it to, or, like, a really, really loyal servant. Because, like, they have, like, their bodyguard type servants that they have. Like, they have them. So maybe they were, like, waiting for there to be, like, this really loyal slave or really loyal servant that they can give the devil fruit to, and then they can, use the slave to, like, ride around on, like they, used the original dragons for. That was a possibility. Maybe it was just, like, some variation of that. Like, they were just waiting until they had someone that they could give the devil fruit to. Or maybe it was just, like, this other variation of just, like, they have the devil fruit on the island because, like, they don't want anyone else outside of the celestial dragons having this devil fruit. And maybe what ended up happening was Rox found out about this devil fruit via whatever. We don't know. Rox may have had, like, a really good information network, and maybe that was, like, kind of what Linlin kind of based hers on, possibly. Like, maybe he had, like, this really good information network, and he found out about, like, this, the Ua Ua no Mi may have been on the island. He's like, oh, that'll be a really good devil fruit for us to have. Whichever one of you kills the most can get it, and that kind of goes into, option number A, of, like, oh, we go to the island, we attack them, whichever one of you, kills the most, celestial dragons and marines and blah, 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 can then have the devil fruit. If he already had one of his own, or he was just going to eat it himself, possibly. And that was, like, one of the options was the devil fruit is already there. And we found out recently in one of the One Piece chapters, well, a little while ago by the time this goes up, but, like, something along the lines of, like, the world government kind of, like, hid the name of a devil fruit. Maybe it was the Ua Ua no Mi that they hid the name of. And that they had hid it on the island, and eventually Kaido was the one that got a hold of it. Somehow Linlin and then Kaido, or Rox and then Linlin and then Kaido, or whatever, got a hold of it. And then, because they needed to find a way to, like, reproduce this, that's why when they capture Kaido, they know that he has this devil fruit. They then have Vegapunk experiment on him, make the artificial devil fruit that was, like, what Momo ate, but Vegapunk says, oh, it's a failure, it doesn't work. And they lock it up on, Punk Hazard. And then, the real one is, with Kaido, the actual, still the true form of it is with Kaido. And that's a possibility. The other possibility that I had was that, like, it was already eaten by one of the slaves or by, like, one of the servants of the celestial dragons. And possibly what it ended up happening was, like, maybe Rox had, like, literally, like, this concept of, like, we have this giant thing full of a lot of different types of fruit sitting on our ship. And maybe it was like, we're going to go to this island and we're just going to kill everything that's on this island. Man, woman, child, marine, pirate, celestial dragon, servant, slave, whatever. We're going to kill every single one of them that's on this island. And then by the end of it, any of them that have devil fruits most likely will get reincarnated within like this like chest that we have on the ship that's filled with like lots of these different fruits. Since we don't know exactly how far away a fruit has to be before it's, considered to be an option to be reincarnated by the, if there's like a specific distance it has to be, or if it can be just any random fruit anywhere in the world. The only one we've seen of like Smiley's devil fruit, when it got the axolotl fruit, where it got reincarnated because there was like an apple that was there on the island and it got reincarnated there. But we don't know if that's like, oh, it's the closest one of that fruit, or if it was just, it happened to be this specific apple that got reincarnated. We don't know. But it may have been like they had like this chest full of, regular fruits, and they were just going to like anyone that's on the island, like just kill them. And then like eventually like maybe there were like a couple of devil fruits that like did incarnate there. Like if they killed any Marines that had, or pirates that had devil fruits, because we don't know who on like Roger's crew, if any of them had devil fruits. Well, if you want to go with like Stampede logic, then, Bullet had a devil fruit, but we have no idea if he would have been on the crew at that point in time or not. And even if he was, we don't know. But, we don't know like what other Marines may have been there at the time, like if any of them may have been part of the fight, or anything like that. And as I said, I don't think we know of any of the Rogers pirates that specifically had devil fruits that I can think of. I could be missing one and I just may not know, but not off the top of my head, I can't think of any. And because we don't know any other Marines besides Garp that were at God Valley, we don't know what other ones may have been there that could have possibly been killed to have their devil fruit taken away, by Roger, or by Rox. And it may have been like, maybe they did find like the celestial dragon slave or whatever that maybe had this devil fruit, and they killed that slave. And then may have been, Linlin was like in charge of like guarding the ship or something. And like if like one of the fruits like incarnated on the ship, it may have been like, maybe she had like Zeus or Prometheus or like one of her other homies like guarding the chest. And then it was like, oh, dragon fruit like pops up in the chest. And then it's just like she, because she's like mentally linked to her homies, particularly the ones that she's made out of her own soul. So Prometheus, Zeus, Napoleon, and such, Hera at this point in time, and current time in the manga. But she like sees all of that, and it may have been like this. So it was like, oh, we got the dragon fruit, it's in the chest now. And it may have been she may have been going back to check on it, and then it may have been just like the same result of like she had her hand on the dragon fruit, and her maybe initial thought may have been like everything's going to heck in a handbasket all around her. Rox may have been either defeated or was dying at the time. She's got the devil fruit, and she's like, and then she like gives it to Kaido. So every result of these results in like Linlin has the devil fruit and she gives it to Kaido. And that's the only thing that we know, is that like she had the devil fruit, she gave it to Kaido. How she had her hands on that devil fruit is left up for debate. And those are just the three options that I had. Rox had it to begin with, and it was like a prize. Linlin had it, and she was going to give it to one of her kids, but then she gave it to Kaido to save his life. Or it was on the island, or they had to kill a slave and get it or whatever, and then she gave it to Kaido to save his life. Every single one of them results in Linlin gave it to Kaido to save his life, and therefore he had a life debt to her, and that's why she, went to, that's why she headed to, Wano, and like was calling in that life debt that he owed her. So that was just basically like the thoughts that I had for like where the devil fruit came from. I guess there is always a possibility that like maybe Rox had it initially, as in like he had been the one that ate it, and then like when he died, like if he did officially die on God Valley, maybe it was like the devil fruit was reincarnated in like the chest with the same idea of just like, we'll just kill everybody here and gain a bunch of new devil fruits, and then we can eat them. And then like he died on the island, and then like the dragon fruit reincarnated, and then like Linlin just like grabbed it, and then she ended up giving it to Kaido because she didn't want to watch him die. Insert whatever reason you want there. So that's pretty much what I had for this video. Those are basically what I wanted to go over. So I thank you very much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed the video, and I hope that you have a nice rest of your day. And Ice has more pearly devil fruits that are very cute. Bye. Don't belittle me. Even now, I still think of you as a little brother. On that day at God Valley, when the Rocks pirates fell to ruin, I was the one who gave you your mythical type fish fruit. You owe me a life debt, Kaido.